so wonderful to be back here in this beautiful space that is still beautiful with beautiful things going on outside and inside. It's just a pleasure. For those who don't know who I am, I used to be the rector here, and until Canada, the great country of Canada, took me away. And it is just a pleasure to be here. What a difference a day can make. I don't know specifically what set me off. Probably something in the news last week. Remember last week? That was the week before last night. Take your pick. I don't know specifically what set me off, but there I was, pacing around the house, going back and forth between checking the New York Times app on my phone, which, by the way, has live updates, and checking to see what cookies we had in the pantry, because that's what I do. Eric came through the house a couple of times, but I hardly noticed him. Something had set me off, and so my mind was racing and my hands were grasping as once again I found myself occupied by a kind of frantic anxiety that wanted to go someplace and had no place to go. Jesus has just stepped off a boat in our gospel, a boat that has just run into terrible trouble. It's the story of Jesus and the storm. As he steps out onto land, he meets a man in equally terrible trouble. This man hasn't just been set off by something, he's been overtaken by alien energies, and these energies are strong. For the man described as from the city, notice that, described as from the city, has been living naked outside the city among what Luke calls the tombs. Other people have chained and shackled him to keep him from hurting himself and others because he doesn't have control of his body. But he has broken these shackles and chains probably more than once and is wandering around in the wild. When Jesus asks the man what these energies are called, he, or is it they, respond with one word: legion. This means that these alien energies, these impulses, are as strong, as violent, as uncontrollable, and as overwhelming as a Roman army, a very well-trained Roman army of 5,000 soldiers, an army that destroys and occupies, an army whose actions, by the way, Luke's audience would have understood out of their own experience. The alien energies are named legion, and they have done to this individual what Roman legions do to cities and villages and countrysides, and they were really competent at doing this. They destroy human life. For this man is a person without the things that human beings have. He's without clothes, without a name or a voice, without a home, and without any relationships to other people. You and I know something of this experience, whether it's the kind of occupying anxieties I've already spoken of, or whether it's something more powerful: addiction, mental illness, debilitating worry or grief. We know something of this. We know what it's like to lose ourselves, to wake up one day and find ourselves away from that healthy city that was our life at one time. We know what it's like to find ourselves living in the tombs, so to speak, cut off from our names and our voices, cut off from our sense of home and ability to be at home, and cut off from the relationships we have treasured. So yes, we do know this story. Some of us have lived this story and know this story very, very well. And you know, we're not to be blamed by God. We're not to be blamed, for as more than one person has said, these days, if you're not anxious or worried or fearful, you're not paying attention. Right along with this, assigning blame, consciously or unconsciously, in situations of addiction, mental illness, or the more debilitating effects of worry or grief, and those are very real, I can tell you, it's not only inaccurate, it isn't helpful. And in the end, it just doesn't get us anywhere. We need something else. We need someone else as we engage whatever version of the Legion we have come to know in these times over this weekend. We need something else. We need someone else. And so I'm going to borrow from my colleague, retired presiding Bishop Michael Curry, my buddy. We need Jesus. We need Jesus, who has no patience with anything that occupies us or that occupies the world in a way that undermines our or other people's humanity. We need Jesus, who does not shrink from any encounter with the destructive energies of the Legion. We need Jesus, who ever shows us the best of what it means to be a human being. We need Jesus, who seeks to return us to ourselves, selves with our own names and voices, selves with the capacity to center and recenter ourselves in the human dignity which is our home, selves with the desire and capacity to live in community with others, even those we don't agree with, and to restore community to our very diverse communities all around us. And God help us. We need Jesus, who shows us that the Legion can be sent into the same water where the chariots pursuing the people of God were sent. The chariots the people of God were fleeing in their escape from slavery in Egypt. And remember that for us, that water that I'm talking about, the water that overcame the Legion, is connected to baptismal water. Remember the prayer we say over the water. It's about that very thing. Which brings me, and I hope us, back to the here and now in this place, where the baptismal font is both the womb of new life and is filled with enough water to drown in, where the enactment of dying and rising with Christ's death in baptism is as real can be. This Jesus, the one we put our trust in, is not like some magic wonder worker who will step in with a word. We would like for him to be this, by the way. He's not like some magic wonder worker who will step in with a word or gesture and cast out the legion-like energies that plague us or the legions in the world that terrify us. This Jesus, whose dying and rising we have taken on in our baptisms, this Jesus was himself overtaken by the destructive, occupying power that the word legion represents. He himself was overtaken, and his being overtaken became for him and for us the path to new life. And so take heart. For in Christ we know that any alien occupying energies will not have the last word, either in our lives or in the lives of our communities. In Christ we know that while the divine image in us can be hidden or obscured, it cannot be destroyed. For even now, Christ is inviting us to reclaim our names and our voices in a new way for a new time. And thus reclaimed, Christ is telling us to return to the cities of our lives, to the cities where we live. We are to return to our cities, clothed and in our right minds, to tell others and to enact what God in Jesus has done for us.